now. So welcome everybody. Good to see you. This is our monthly meeting for the Americas Coaching Supervision Network. I think most of you have been here before. I think Eva, if I'm not wrong, this is your first time in joining us. And we meet every month, and our goal is to bring visibility of coaching supervision, originally in the Americas, but now worldwide, because we have a global group of colleagues working together, and we bring different topics. And it's always the third Monday of the month. If you want to put it in your calendar for the rest of the year, we are always meeting the third Monday of the month at the same time, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, in the same Zoom room that is Lily's. And we created this network with Lily 6 years ago with the goal to bring visibility and a sense of community. So one of our goals in this session is to learn, but also to build relationship with colleagues worldwide. So this is our vision, this is our goal. Now we have around 300 members in the network. We grow up from 10 to 12, and then we have some people like Michelle Mora who have been since the beginning supporting us. So thank you, Michelle, for continuously being present in these meetings. So let's jump to talk. What we're going to do is we're going to share, the people who were at the conference briefly going to share their experiences, and then we're going to go to small groups to do a couple of exercises related to the theme of the conference. So the theme of the conference was spirituality. And it's interesting because when you hear the word spirituality, bring different reactions to people. Some people told us, oh, Damian, that's great. We love you're talking about spirituality and supervision. And some people say, oh, spirituality, not my cup of tea. I don't want to go to the conference. But what is interesting is that spirituality sometimes is misinterpreted as religion. So let's start by saying we are not talking about religion. We are talking about our relationship with, and for every one of you, it's something different. So this is what we did at the conference. We ask everyone to share what is your own understanding or what is spirituality for you and how that plays in your work and in your life, but particularly in your work as a supervisor. So how do we bring that dimension to our work? So that was the invitation during the conference. And at the end of the 2 days, we have a space where we have a couple of colleagues, Mirna, Osiris, and I have a blank at this point, other colleague from New Zealand, for a minute, and then it went out. But the idea was that we had the opportunity just to talk together and reflect on what is spirituality for each of us and how that looks in our work. And based on that, this is what we're going to be doing today for a little while. Like we're going to go to small groups and discuss and explore that. That will be the invitation. And then we have some guest speakers who talk, and maybe not necessarily related to that topic, did some presentations. So we have Eric Dehan as the keynote speaker talking about team coaching supervision. And Michelle, we were talking about that at the beginning of the session today, that team coaching supervision is of particular interest to supervisors because this last year there is a new credential from ICF, team coaching. I don't know if you have heard about that. Everybody have heard that there is, ICF is coming up with a new credential of team coaching, and they are making team coaching supervision mandatory. So this is the first time that ICF is requesting for team coaches to get supervision to be able to apply for a credential. So that's something new, and it's bringing new awareness of what supervision is and the role of supervision. And also we have a couple of people from the ICF research team, Joe De Girolamo, to come and discuss what they're doing. They're making right now a research project to come up eventually with a competency model that may help in the future to come up with an ICF credential. So they have not making enough formal announcement. So for now, it's only the announcement is that they're doing the research and they're collecting the data. So they invited everybody to participate in the research project. And so this is how we end the conference. And then we have that team coaching in the morning on the first day. We have Eric Dehan talking about coaching supervision in terms of team coaching. Then he did a demonstration that was very interesting. And then we have Larissa and Tracy presenting a case on team coaching supervision. So the whole morning was about team coaching supervision as a key theme that supervisors are talking. And then after that, we have a group supervision experience. We always do that in our conferences. Everybody experience group supervision. So we have some facilitators that facilitate group supervision, and everybody had experience and the opportunity to participate in group supervision. And then we ended the day with a discussion on spirituality. And then the second day, we have we wanted to do like a work cafe where people come together and discuss topics and then move around. But it's virtually it's a little bit complicated. So what we decided to do were like 5 we call it round tables. So people could choose a topic of interest and they will go to the round table and then they will have a chance to go to a second one. So the topics that we covered included environmental issues and systemic issues, resistance to supervision and resistance to when people come to supervision to be vulnerable and open up in supervision. We discussed internal versus external supervision, what happened in organizations. We discussed ethical issues in supervision. And we have the 5th one was on, what was the 5th one? Anybody remembers? Anybody was there? Did a different one?
Technology. Was it technology?
No, we didn't have one on technology. Was about resourcing. Was resourcing, talking about how to recharge batteries and how to take care of our own emotional and boundary issues in our work. So these were the 5 topics. And then after that, we have a very interesting session on ethical issues. And then we have a panel that Erika was part of it, talking about diversity issues. And then we have Jolly Girolamo from ICF discussing some of the trends in supervision. And then we have one more session on spirituality at the end. So what I was thinking, this was like to give you a whole perspective of what happened during the 2 days on the conference. We're going to have a meeting in person for people who are coming to Converge. Anybody coming to the ICF meeting Converge in Orlando from this group? No? If you change your mind and you are coming to Orlando, let us know, because we are going to have the first day before we start with the pre-conference on the Tuesday the 22nd. We are going to be having a session where we are going to be working on, again, team coaching supervision and creativity. So to bring Lego and to do things we cannot do in virtually. So we're going to take an opportunity to meet in person and do work in person. So that will be our goal with Lily. So let's jump into the conference. We're going to hear a little bit from the participants, and then we are going to go to small groups to discuss some of the discussions we have at the conference around spirituality and how that looked like for you. So Michelle, would you like to share briefly about, since you have been also talking about and exploring team coaching supervision, the Eric Dehan presentation?
I missed it.
You missed that one.
It.
Okay. Anybody else?
I was late. Due to the time difference, I had to finish my facilitation and I missed Eric. I'm curious to see the recording.
Yeah, the recordings are, by the way, the recordings are already ready by today. They finished editing all of the recordings, so they are going to be available this week. We're going to be sending the link in the next couple of days.
So this one I cannot help.
Yeah. Genevieve, were you there at the Eric Dehan session presentation? Anybody here that is present here was present there? Linda, you were there. You remember?
I was there, and my mind is a little blank right now on yes. But I'll go get my notes. That would be very helpful.
Yeah, that would be great if you can find your notes. That would be nice. Erika, were you there? Anybody who was there have any comments or?
Yeah, I found his just the challenge. I think he was talking about the challenges in supervision and how much there is relational dynamics that need to be sort of managed as a supervisor within the team, with the team itself. And so really paying attention to, the dynamics that's working out in the here and now, and being able to sort of address that as a team, and how important that is to set the tone of how they're going to work in supervision.
Yeah, he was talking about the importance of relationships and paying attention to relationships. So his approach, he called it relational team coaching supervision, because he's particularly interested in the relationships between the supervisor and the team, and the relationship between the team members and with the leader. And he used a gestaltic approach too. He used a lot in the here and now self as instrument. And he demonstrated that too in his demonstration. Was really interesting to see how he really used his experience in the here and now. Linda, do you have anything in your note that you want to add? You're a mute though.
It was a really powerful demonstration by Eric Dehaan. You were talking about relational coaching, which is something maybe new for some of us, but it's also his posture, the way he is when he's working with this group of people during the group supervision, and also a lot of humility in his work as well, which a lot of us noticed. And it was really a lot of learning from what he did, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, he was that lovely. He was so present in the moment. Yeah. There was almost no structure to it other than the way he opened, and then he just seemed to flow with wherever the participants were going, and taking feedback from participants that I think for some of us may have made us uncomfortable, that participants were being so honest with him about how they were reacting to his facilitation or lack thereof, that of just being present. It was beautiful to watch the relational piece of it, where he truly was present to the people in the room.
What was interesting in his model that he did that I have not seen that before is that he had, even though he was a supervisor, he has to have like a coach for the team, or one of the participants. So even there were like 5 people in the experience, one of them had the role of like being the coach of the team too. So he was supervising the team, and he was also a coach that was making some comments on participating, and it was really interesting how that played out. That was different as a demo.
As Linda said, it was really the way he was welcoming all the feedback from all the participants, even when he was the first concerned by it. So that was really humbling to us, looking at him and learning from that way of behaving.
A way of being that is not defensive at all when you're being, criticized, or that is easy to say, but it's not really to do and demonstrate.
Yeah.
And so that was a great thing to see, how somebody can receive feedback and embrace it 100%. Anything else you want to share about this before we move on?
Damian, I'm just wondering, will the recordings be available only for those people who are actually registered for the conference?
Yeah. Yeah, I need to talk to Lily. We didn't decide if we're going to make them available to other people, like for buying the recordings as a possibility, because some are really interesting, and we need to agree about that before I say anything. So let me talk to Lily and then see how we can make it work. There are pros and cons about that. So, but that's these demonstrations that you need to be there to really get. It's not about content; it's about experience. So then it was a case presentation after that from Larissa and Tracy was really interesting. And then we had experience on being part of a group supervision. So I don't know if the people who are here, they want to briefly share about that. How was your experience in your group supervision without disclosing any confidentiality issues? I was one of the supervisors. I had the opportunity to work with a group, and it was a really interesting experience because there is always learning. It's like when you're sharing, when you're other supervisors, and we're with other colleagues, you always learn by listening to them and sharing experiences, like we were going to do here today too. So, Linda, anything you want to share?
It was an interesting experience. I so admired the supervisor who volunteered to do it, and who said in the beginning, I am here. I volunteered to do this because they were looking for people. And then it was fascinating to watch the dynamics in the group and try to step back from that when you put 4 people who are supervisors into a room, and one was very strong in her thoughts and opinions about supervision. And it was interesting to watch the supervisor, the appointed or selected supervisor, work to continue the group in supervision rather than one participant kind of just going where she was going. It was very interesting to watch, and then to realize my own experience in the group and what was I doing to support the supervisor, or to or just to step back and watch one participant in the group sort of go with it. I don't know. It was a fascinating experience. I've not been in a group supervision with other supervisors that I haven't worked with before. So it was interesting to just observe what was going on. That didn't say a whole lot, but that's kind of where I left it when I was finished.
Well, I think that when you are working in group supervision in an artificial space, a lot of things can happen. Correct, Michelle? Like, yes. In the past, like you don't know where people are coming from.
I don't know how you know that.
Yeah, it's like every person, it's different. Yeah. And when you have to be vulnerable and open up in a space, different things may happen. Sometimes can be riskier, like we're talking about taking risks. Like Eddie Dehan really was open to it. And sometimes it can be challenging. Like when I'm hearing Linda in terms of how somebody's showing up also, because in group supervision, the idea that everybody's learning together. So one person is bringing the case, but it's not about the person, it's about how we all learn from that case, correct? So it's how the group supervisor, Linda, have to play in a way where the person is bringing a case, but everybody's learning. It's not just for the benefit of one person bringing the case, but needs to engage and involve and get everybody to be involved in sharing. And people are coming from different backgrounds and different experiences and different trainings on supervision and group supervision.
Thank you for that label, artificial space. That is useful for me.
Yeah, because it's in some way artificial. It's not that you are on ongoing group supervision where the supervisor, most of the time in groups, interview people to be sure that they are right fit for the group, correct? Here is you don't know what will happen because you don't know where people are coming from. Not everybody was a supervisor, like most people, but not everybody. And some people may or may not have a lot of experience in group supervision. It depends on the training. Some trainings spend more time than others in group supervision. So it can be, but that's the richness of experience. It's that variety. This is what we wanted to create. I think that most people have a positive experience in these spaces. And then we have the first day, and then we're going to move to do what we did the first day at the end of the day. It was to discuss spirituality for each of us. So I want everybody to consider, to think, what is spirituality for you? And how do you think that plays in your work? That was the background of the conference, and we want to recreate a little bit of that here today. So we want to ask you to think, for you, when you think about spirituality, what is it for you? How do you define it? So I was sharing that when I worked on my dissertation for my PhD 20 years ago, my dissertation was on spirituality at work. At that time, nobody was talking about spirituality at work. Now there are many books. Mindfulness and the concept of mindfulness didn't exist as a concept, as a distinction, of people talking about it. But I was curious to see how do we bring ourselves, our wholeness to our work. And I did believe that the spirituality component and our relationship with our soul, and again, not about religion, but about spiritual self, how we were bringing this to work. So I have been interested in the topic for many years. And we were discussing here, how do we bring this to our work as supervisors? So like, for example, for me, as an example, I was talking about spirituality is about interconnectedness, how we connect with ourselves, with the universe, with people, and how these relationships play when we are by ourselves and when we're with other people. So that's one way, and this is my personal way. But I want everybody here to think, when you think about spirituality, what is for you? It may look like religion for some people. It may be your practices, your rituals, whatever you do that in some way cultivate or enrich or work with when we talk about the soul, our essence. And again, soul is defined by different people in different ways, but whatever it is for you. So let's go to triad, and let's have a chance to share for a few minutes with people your definition of spirituality. And the first day was that, and the second day we moved from understanding what is spirituality to how we apply it to our work as supervisors. But today we don't have time to do the 2 breakout rooms, so we will have only 1. So we will ask in this breakout just for 10 minutes to share with your colleagues how does it look for you. That's an opportunity to reflect on this topic. And then we will come back and share with everybody. So let's take 10 minutes and let's be back in 10 minutes. So welcome back, everybody. Who would like to share briefly how was your conversation? What did you learn? Talking to each other. Who would like to share?
I'll share. I think as it was in the conference, I think the conversation about spirituality, I think it holds a lot of different ways of looking at what spirituality is for each individual person. And for some of us, we're still kind of figuring that out. Others of us have more, concrete ideas. And I love that. I love the conversation because it allows for all sorts of definitions and what's true for you. And are we authentically living into that the way that we want to? And so it's a beautiful kind of conversation around what does it mean for us, and how do we bring that forward in our lives and in the work that we do as coaches and supervisors. So
thank you, Erika. That's exactly our intention with Lily, to be provocative about that and see how everybody responds to that. And as you can see, people have different reactions. Who else would like to share?
I can go ahead. I was with Eva and Jeanne Elvire, and it's a topic that is so rare to discuss, and however, it's so present in our life because we define spirituality, how we connect to self and to our emotions, our sensations of who we are and how we are in the present moment. And connecting to self allow us to connect to others, to connect to the systems, to connect to the universe, and I personally align to the principles of how nature works. So we all agreed in these principles in saying everything is linked, the interconnectedness, everything is linked, everything is fair, everything evolves. So it's accepting what's happening in the here and now. It helps also surrendering, letting go, and being the best person we can be.
Thank you. This is very inspirational listening to you, your voice, what you're saying. I don't know everybody's reaction, but this is great when we can get some of that together, where we can inspire each other. Anybody else would like to share?
And also, we said in our group with Sylvie Ann and Eva that sometimes we can feel that we are not connected. And it is also good to notice it, because it's not mandatory to be all the time connected. When we are not connected, it also means something, and we should also learn from it.
Yeah.
Great point.
It's an intention. It all starts with our intention.
Yeah. Anybody else would like to share? So what we can do in the last few minutes is asking some of the participants, if you would like. I wanted to ask Erika, because she was part of a panel that was very powerful during the session around diversity issues. Do you want to share briefly about the panel and about your experience?
Yeah, I had the really great honor and privilege to be part of the group that was presenting. And some of us knew each other before and some of us didn't. And just I think the synergy of the group, we only met like 1 or 2 times, and I think 1 time actually. And just I think what we wanted it to be was a place to hold just a conversation that we were going to have around, specifically, I think if I could summarize it, it's like, I think allowing ourselves and our identities, different parts of ourselves, all parts of ourselves, right, to come forward. And that can we bring that forward in our relationships with people, as we coach people, and as we and part of also spirituality, right? That's a conversation, and just that sort of sense of like, there's all parts of ourselves sometimes we don't bring because we're afraid, or we fear rejection, or we fear it's going to be offensive to somebody, or etc. But then how do we, that intersectionality of all parts of ourselves to be whole, if we're asking our clients and our supervisees and our mentees to come forward with all parts of ourselves, how do we do that and provide and hold space for that for ourselves and the people we work with and the people that we are in relationship with. And so even though it was around diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, that whole concept was the idea of different parts of all of us, whether there's a race or a cultural piece or what have you, but that, as a mother, as a father, as a husband, as, partners, as, all these things, how does that impact our framework and who we are and how we show up? And that is a way of, I think, cultivating a sense of authentic self and who you are, right, as a person. And let's bring all of that into conversation and allow freedom for that to be brought forward, and get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Sometimes those identities aren't so maybe accepted or fully realized yet. And so it's like, how do we give people courage in that space to allow for that? And how do we give ourselves that space to allow for that? So.
Thank you, Erika. Anybody who was in the in the conference that was part of that panel, that observed the panel, want to share any observation? Linda or Michelle or Genevieve?
One of the things I have in my notes that I'm remembering, one of the panelists talked about, had the question of how much time do we focus on ourselves versus focusing on our clients? in order to be present and work with them. And his suggestion was that we spend 80 to 90% on ourselves in order to be present for our clients, instead of as we notice, sometimes we spend a whole lot of time trying to figure out what the client needs rather than working on ourselves. And it was an interesting paradigm shift for me to think about what used to be thought of as being selfish, that I work on myself a lot, that rather than work for and in service of my client. I don't know, it just has gotten me thinking about the whole thing of, again, it goes back to spirituality, knowing me, knowing what I bring into the space, and just being present for a client.
Thank you for sharing that, Linda.
And I'm going to build on what Linda said. It was also a reminder for us that coaching session or supervision session, then as coaches and supervisors, we should prepare to get in it, because the kind of sacred place that we are with our clients. It's very important that when we get in the session, we are completely dedicated to our clients and are present for them. So it needs some preparation from us. From one session to the other, have a buffer, like maybe 15 minutes or more for those who need it. But that is also a very important reminder.
Thank you for that. And we need to start wrapping up the session today in the last couple of minutes. I don't know if the people who were here want to share anything else about your experience at the conference that you think other people can benefit. Any comments, reactions, learnings you had that you would like to share before we wrap up the session today? This is very informal. I didn't ask anybody to prepare anything. This was more talking about your experiences and learning from each other. But I was wondering, Erica, Linda, and then Michelle still here, Genevieve. Anybody else was at the conference? You were not there, were you? No. Anything you would like to share before we go?
That was my first full conference. And I just really, it was full, but I just felt like it was such an amazing connecting experience with so many experienced supervisors and coaches, as well as from people all over the world, and just being able to really get a different sometimes perspective and what they bring and their experience as a coach in a different culture and maybe race as well. And so it was so I guess invigorating, because the conversation was so meaningful and purposeful.
Thank you. We have people, 105 people who sign up for the conference, and together at the same time, the most that we had was 65. But it was a good number. I think that we were happy with the outcome, because everything that's happening in the past, we have had more participants signing up, but I think people are tired of being in front of Zoom. Even in this meeting, today we have 10 people, it's a good number, but still, we had 300 people in the network. And I do believe that now people are very picky in terms of, okay, if we are going to be coming to a meeting, we have to be very intentional in terms of how we use our time. But thank you for being here. So from the 105 people who signed up for the conference, people were from 21 different countries. So it was a really global conference. Linda, anything you want to say?
Oh, yes. Another thing that I took away from the conference, and many of you may already be familiar with it, the untitled poem by Beth Strano about being in a safe space. I highly recommend it. It's beautiful. And I shared it with one of my supervision groups, and the response from them was also interesting. In the poem, she talks about, we don't really create safe spaces. We live in the real world. And so then how do we approach that? So again, Beth Strano, the untitled poem, and then it has some history of its own that is interesting to follow, that it was, picked up by someone else and used taken as her own work, plagiarized, if you will, And so that's an interesting story to follow as well. So
thank you,
Strano,
Linda.
Strano.
Do you want to write it down in the chat room for people to? So I can have it. And I was looking at the chat too that Michael shared with us, the magazine from AC on coaching and spirituality. Thank you, Michael. You're always so resourceful, always so generous, sharing resources with everybody. Okay. What is that? What is that book? We cannot hear you.
The Poetry of Presence. It's a wonderful collection. So if you want to have that experiential essence of sitting with, which is spirituality, and of course you use the word inspiring, which of course has its root in spirituality. So this is a wonderful book that I love dipping into before a coaching session or afterwards. So I highly recommend it. Poetry of Presence.
Thank you.
Who is the author, Michael?
It's a collection. So it's I'll put it. It's Phyllis Cole, COLE -DAI is the editor, and Ruby Wilson editors. But Poetry of Presence, an anthology of mindfulness poems is the full title.
Thank you for sharing that, because this is one of our goals here too, is to share resources and share this kind of material. Like, for example, this newsletter from AC, Michael, it sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's on the topic on spirituality. Is that something we can share with members from the network?
I give you permission to do that. It's, it's published by Hetty, who you and I met, of course, at Oxford, and it's a quarterly publication from the Association for Coaching. And the word is for coaching because it's all about the evolution of coaching. So it's a nice association. And this wonderful magazine recently came out with artificial intelligence and how that's playing with our identities as coaches. And I host a quarterly forum based on an article from those magazines.
So the title is Poetry of
Presence.
Presence. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Poetry and Presence. Really, I kind of seen that book before.
But last but not least was also the panel organized and led by Okokon. That was also a very important moment. As Linda was talking about safe space, it was also very important.
Yeah, that was Erika was part of the panel. With Okokon facilitating the panel.
Yes, Erika was there.
Erika was one of the participants, and it was really important. I agree with you, Genevieve. Well, unfortunately, we are at the top of the hour, so I want to appreciate everyone who's here. Thank you for coming today. We hope to see you next month. Again, it's always the third Monday of the month, always at the same time. We also have the Asian Coaching Supervisor Network. It's the last Wednesday of the month in Asia. The last Tuesday night in the West Coast, 8 p.m. It's a little bit late for people on the east side of the country. But we're going to be doing the same. We're going to be talking about the conference. But if you want to come back, you're always welcome to join us to that space too. Okay, thanks everybody for being here. Look forward to seeing you in other sessions. Okay, take care.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.